There's a little known function in Excel that can create charts inside cells using a formula. I used it to build this dashboard that dynamically updates as my data changes. It's the repeat function, and at first glance it looks like the most boring function in Excel. All it does is repeat text. But with some clever use of fonts and symbols, you can use repeat to build in-cell bar charts, progress bars, star ratings and more, all without inserting a single chart. You can download the free Excel file with all the examples documented and follow along from the link in the description and pinned comment. First, let me quickly show you how it works. The REPT function repeats a piece of text a specified number of times. You can see the result for the dash is repeated 10 times. And you can use it with different text and symbols to get different results. Now the block character here will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting today to create our bar charts. But there's one quick thing to note. If you give repeat a decimal number, it rounds it down. So you can see here 3.9 only repeats the character 3 times. Keep that in mind for the next examples. Okay, let's go to the dashboard sheet and we'll build something useful. Here I have some product sales data and I want a visual representation of the numbers so I can easily compare them at a glance. You could do this with conditional formatting data bars, but color coding them is limited to a single color. Whereas with the repeat function, we can use font formatting to create effects like this. I'll start by inserting the block character, which you'll find on the Insert tab in the Symbols dialog box. You want the font Arial and the subset block elements, and it's this one here. So insert it, close, it's in the cell. I'm going to Shift and back arrow to select it, Control C to copy, and then escape. Because it's now on my clipboard, I don't need it in the cell. Now we want REPT. The text is the block character. We need to wrap it in double quotes, Control V to paste it in, and close the double quotes. The number of times will be the sales value divided by the maximum of the sales in the column. That's going to give us a value between 0 and 1. Close parentheses on max, multiplied by 20. Which is the longest we want the bar to be. Close repeat, press enter. And the formula copies down because my data is in an Excel table. Now one quick tip. I've already formatted the bar column in Consolus, which is a monospaced font. And that means every character is exactly the same width, so the bars line up nicely. Next, let's select the bars and we'll use conditional formatting to color code them. I want a new rule. And I'm going to use a formula to determine which cells to format. Here I want to check whether the sales value is greater than $9,000. And I need to remove the dollar sign from the row reference so that it applies it to all of the rows in the range. The format for this is going to be a font color in green. Okay and okay. Now the bars where sales were higher than 9,000 are green. Let's rinse and repeat for the other colors. So again, where the value in cell D7, delete the dollar sign, is greater than 7,000, I'm going to format this in yellow font. Now it's applied it to all the bars, but don't worry, we will fix it once we've set up all the rules. Next one is where the value is greater than 6,000, we're going to format this in an orange font. And one more, new rule, use a formula where the value is less than or equal to 6,000. This one is going to be in a slightly darker shade of orange. Okay. Now we need to go into the Conditional Formatting Rules Manager. And we need to rearrange the order. So you can see the less than 6,000 is being applied first. So we want to move that down below the green format. This one needs to move down 2 levels and yellow down 1. So we're going to format green, yellow, orange, and red. Click OK. And now they're color coded according to their size. Obviously, you can customize the color coding to suit your data and goals. Right, let's level this up. What if for the completion rate, we use a progress bar filled for the completion portion and a lighter shade for the rest, as you can see here in the finished dashboard. First, I'll grab the symbols I want to use. So we go Insert, Symbol, and I want the solid block. I'm double clicking to insert it in the cell. And I want this medium shaded block, double click. Again, Arial and block elements. Now, they're in the cell, but I need to copy them to my clipboard, and because I've got two separate symbols, I need to copy them one by one. So I'm going to open the clipboard and I'm going to select the first one, Control C. It's now on my clipboard. Select the second one, Control C, and that's also on my clipboard. So I don't need them in the cell anymore. I can escape out of there. And then let's bring this over a bit closer. I'll select the cell for my progress bar, but I'm going to Control-Shift-U and write the formula up in the formula bar because I'm going to start with let. Let will allow me to store the values in the formula so we don't have to keep repeating the same calculations. The first thing I want to define is the total width of the bar. I'll call this width, and it's going to be 20. I'm going to Alt-Enter down onto the next row. Next we need to work out how much of the bar should be filled. So I'm going to call this filled. The number of the fill blocks is based on the completion rate times the width that we defined earlier. But because percentages don't always convert neatly, I'm going to wrap that in the round function, and we're going to round it to 0 decimal places. So if the completion rate is 90%, Excel is going to calculate 90% of 20, which is going to give us 18 filled blocks. And the 0 tells Excel to round it to the nearest whole number, because the repeat function needs a whole number of characters to repeat. Now, comma, Alt-Enter, down onto the next row. Now we can create the actual bar using the repeat function. We're repeating the solid block, so I'm going to double-click to insert it, close double quotes, and we're going to repeat it based on the value we calculated in the filled variable. That's my first part of the bar. And then I'm going to join with the ampersand another repeat formula for the shaded part of the bar. So we'll insert that, comma, how many times are we repeating this? Well, it will be the total width minus the filled value. And this repeats the empty block for whatever's left over. So if the full bar is 20 characters wide, 18 characters are filled, the empty section will be 2 characters. Close parentheses on let, press enter, and you can see we've got a progress bar that fits neatly inside the cells. In the interest of time, I already applied the conditional formatting to these cells using the same technique covered earlier. Now, one important thing to understand is that the width of 20 controls the level of detail. With 20, each character represents 5%. It's compact and easy to read. But values like 93 and 95 can look the same because they round to the same number of blocks. If you need more precision, you can increase the width to 50 or use narrower characters, so instead of the filled block, you might use the pipe symbol. And you can experiment to see what works best for you. This progress bar trick is one of those small wins that makes people stop and ask, how did you do that? And that's exactly the feeling I want you to have every time you open Excel. That's what my Advanced Excel Formulas course is built to give you. You'll go from feeling stuck on tricky formulas to confidently solving the kind of problems most people quietly avoid. Dynamic arrays, advanced nested ifs, let, lambda, modular formulas you can actually read 6 months later. All taught with real-world business examples, not abstract theory. You'll find the link in the description and pinned comment below. Let's do one more. Star ratings out of 5, which is perfect for product reviews, performance scores, employee evaluations, anything you'd want to rate visually instead of as a number. In column J, I've got a list of my product scores out of 5, so I'll put the rating in column K beside. Another way to insert characters is using the unichar function. The filled star is 9733, and I can use unichar in my formula, or I can copy the symbols to my clipboard. And I prefer to do this because then we can see exactly what the formula is going to insert. So I'm going to Control-C to copy the first star. And then let's edit this because the unfilled star is 9734. Let me copy that. So now they're both on my clipboard. I can delete the formula in there and we'll insert repeat. What's the text? Well, the first one will be the filled star, close double quotes. How many times are we repeating it? Whatever the score is. Close parentheses on the first repeat, and then we're going to join another repeat function with the unfilled star, close double quotes. How many times are we repeating this? Well, it will be 5 minus whatever the score is, but we need to round down the score to 0 decimal places so that if the score was 4.5, it would become 4. Close parentheses on repeat and press enter. Now you might be wondering why I'm rounding down the unfilled star score And that's because if I don't round down here and the score was 4.5, I would be subtracting 5 minus 4.5, which would return a half, and repeat would round it down to 0, and I get no unfilled stars. So now, if the score is 4.5, it rounds it down to 4 stars filled and 1 star empty. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. What about half stars? If my data has scores like 4.5, I want to see 4.5 stars. Unfortunately, Excel can't shade half of a character, and there's no Unicode character for a half-filled star. So, my honest advice, if there's a chance your scores might land on a half, just round them down. 4 whole stars communicate the rating clearly, and they work on every machine in every version of Excel. Now you've seen how the repeat function can build bar charts, progress bars and star ratings to make a complete mini dashboard without inserting a single chart object. If you're ready to take this a step further and build a full interactive Excel dashboard with slicers, multiple charts, and live filters, you'll love this next video on how to build an interactive dashboard in 3 steps. The free template's included. I'll see you there.